Hello and welcome to a Gooner Ramble. This is an Arsenal podcast, and joining me this evening I've got regular Judd.
How you doing tonight?
I'm good, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic.
Good. And also we have the People's Champion, Clive. Clive, how are you?
Not too bad. I don't know why you keep calling me that, but I'll take it.
It's the nickname. It was what you it was in a YouTube comments, so I just kindly plucked it out, you know. Okay. I'm a wrestling fan. One of my favourite wrestlers growing up was The Rock. He was the People's Champion, so I thought, you know, someone else has obviously took Clive on as the People's Champion, so I thought I'd carry it on.
Right, I'll keep it going. I bet it's took some sense.
No worries. Well, it was a first visit to Bournemouth in a must-win game on Sunday. You know, we want to try and close that gap near the top there. It was the early game on the Super Sunday, as well as Super Bowl Sunday, or what have you, if that's for the American listeners to enjoy. But we went there to Bournemouth Vitality Stadium, and we all know the team. Obviously, Flamini started. That caused a bit of trouble, which we'll get into later as well. But what did you guys make of the lineup? Were you happy with the centre-back pairing? You know, Mertesacker not coming back in?
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, I really wanted to see what Koscielny and Gabriel would be able to do together. I think sometimes we get into the mindset that you have to have two different types of center backs, and people think that when they're too similar, they won't play well together. But I think they showed yesterday that, you know, you can work with that, you know, and it'll take time of them playing together to really gel and get a good understanding between themselves. And then we'll really be able to see what they're fully capable of. But yeah, I was happy with the lineup and all. I kind of wanted to see Walcott out on the right just because I'm hoping that he can get back into form. I know he hasn't really been playing real great lately, but, you know, neither is Ox. But, you know, he was able to get into the match and start contributing a little bit more, I thought, yesterday. I thought everybody played pretty well. Copeland coming back from injury still, trying to get back to full match fitness wasn't really a big surprise to see Flamini. But yeah, all in all, I was pretty pleased with the lineup as a whole.
Good. And you, Clive?
Yeah, I was actually really pleased to see the Ox start. Actually, I think in recent games he's been showing, you know, flashes of coming back, and I felt, I said a few weeks ago, I just felt that Joel Campbell had his moment, had his wave of form, and I just felt he just reached the plateau a little bit, and he just sort of topped off, and we weren't seeing the flashes of brilliance that we were seeing. He didn't do anything wrong. But sometimes you just got to know when to take somebody out, right? So I thought he was just starting to labour. So I was quite pleased to see the Ox play. I get your point about Theo Judd, but Theo just doesn't touch the ball enough, in my opinion. So I think at the moment, his form as a midfielder is a little bit hard to trust, right? So as a centre forward, there's a debate, right? But he needs to find a run at a centre forward, and Giroud's playing so well that that's going to be a little bit harder. But for me, the real talking point was well, firstly, I was shocked to see Coquelin not start. I expect him to start.
Yeah.
When you think it through, it sort of makes sense, as long as he starts the next one, right? So is there a hidden problem there that we don't know about? You never can tell with Arsenal, right? So, but again, the most pleasing thing for me was Gabriel starting. Now, I know that their partnership is still a work in progress, but what I like about him is that, and I said it today actually, I was talking to a few people, when Gabriel plays, he doesn't get targeted, right? So he's just a centre-back that plays, and he can run, jump, tackle. When Mertesacker plays, he gets targeted. So for all the calmness and all the great possession that he has and serenity that he brings the back four, if you've got a lack of something that tells you you're going to be targeted, like Chelsea targeted him, and like Leicester no doubt will do on Sunday if he plays, that tells me he's not quite the one for these sort of big match moments, right? So I was really pleased to see Gabriel start. I know he overran one ball and everyone got a bit nervous and said that's why Mertesacker needs to play. But actually I thought he played better than Koscielny. I thought he was very decisive, and I want to see that partnership develop, right? And I will no doubt go into a bit later on, but yeah, I was pleased with the team.
Yeah. Well, we all know about Bournemouth. You know, they press hard, they hold a high line and everything else, and they've got a lot of hustle and bustle in their midfield. You know, they try and attack quite through that midfield with some runs, and obviously Benicophobe was on a good run of form. But like you said, Clive, I think Gabriel especially handled Benicophobe brilliantly yesterday. But not really much happening the first couple of minutes. Obviously, with Bournemouth pressing hard and everything else and holding that high line, we managed to exploit them with a few balls over the top, which was quite rare to see from Arsenal. And Ramsey, like we said, got in a few times, but 8 minutes in, the main talking point, like we said, Flamini, who worried people before kick-off. How lucky was he, guys? Dan Gosling as well, who has had his fair share of red cards through his career, but how lucky was Flamini there, Clive? I'll go to you first.
Well, the word that comes to mind is just needless. Right? So he was like 70-30 favourite, right, for that ball, but he then decides to 2-foot it and go through the ball. I mean, it's just stupidity, right? So a lot of times on the pod we talk about fine lines. Just think this through. That's minute 8. Minute 8, 10 men, quite easily, if the referee, perceives that differently, and he could easily have done so. Minute 8, we haven't scored in 3 games. That could be it. That could be absolute uproar if he gets sent off and we draw or lose that game. That could be the season gone. And he's meant to be an experienced player, someone you put in for just those sort of calming head moments, right? So we got lucky there, right? I don't think he was a sending off because he was that far ahead in the challenge that he didn't really put the opponent in danger.
I think that's what made the ref's mind up, wasn't it? That he just was marginally ahead, yeah.
What's he doing? Just stand up. It's a coward's tackle. It's a footballer's tackle that says, I'm winning the ball and I'm not getting hurt. And if you come here, you're getting hurt. And that's a coward's tackle, right? So for me, I was not impressed with that. I was not impressed with, that type of risky decision that basically could have put the whole club's league season under threat very easily. If he'd have gone sent off 8 minutes in, we're on the stretch, we are busting a gut, trying to get a draw. And so very disappointing for me.
Yeah. And what about you, Judd? I mean, we've talked about players getting sent off before. I remember Giroud when in the Champions League early in the season did some stupid things. Is it just a case of he was stupid again, Flamini?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to just completely echo Clive, but I completely agree with everything he said. And to go off on a small tangent, I've always liked that disruptive force in the midfield, and it's become kind of a joke that Coquelin's always going to get a yellow, or same with Flamini. But man, you gotta use your head a little bit. And like Clive was saying, I mean, it's way too early in the match to be doing something as foolish as that. And I agree that in the grand scheme of things, it shouldn't be a red, but the way that the game is officiated these days, you're going in 2-footed, whether you make contact or not, can very easily be shown a red, and you don't want to put that decision in, the referee's hands. It's just foolish, needless, and completely ridiculous to be doing things like that early or really at any point in the match. Sure, he won the ball easily, was there comfortably, but if that's the case, why are you going in 2-footed in the first place? It's foolish. And, we lucked out that it didn't burn us. We've had some problems with people being a little bit, hot-headed in the past. Gabriel, wrongfully, rightfully, whatever you want to say, getting sent off against Chelsea, like you were saying with Giroud. And those things, they kill the team. And 8th minute, man. I mean,
yeah.
Jeez, Pete, come on. I don't care who you're playing.
Yeah, when it happens really early with us, it just seems to ruin the whole rest of the match, doesn't it?
Well, it doesn't really matter who you're playing. If you're playing a man down for 80 minutes, the chances of you getting any kind of positive result are very slim, especially as competitive as the Premier League is nowadays and as high a pace as teams play. And, Bournemouth already playing a high line and bringing the pressure through the midfield as it is. And it would have been a real struggle to get any kind of result out of that. But fortunately, he was lucky boy, stayed on the pitch, and we, don't really have to worry about it. But moving forward, I hope he starts making some smarter decisions out there when he is out there.
Yeah. Well, not really much more happened until the 23rd minute. And that man Ramsey again, he managed to get through there matched. I thought he matched Bournemouth's midfield for effort yesterday. They really work hard. They're effortless. But his energy yesterday was great. And he pings in, which is an absolutely beautiful ball. And Giroud's seen it, heads it down, and people go, "Oh, what class played by Giroud." I thought Ozil to stay still where he was, not move a bit forward, and then to have the technique and the finish. What a lovely goal. What did you guys make of that?
Yeah, Ozil's positioning on that was genius. I mean, that
if he
just
moved a step too far, it could have all.
Well, it shows that he's got such an awareness of the players around him. You could see him, realize that I think we had 2 or 3 players in front of him as it is. There's no need for him to just go up there and clog things up and be useless. So he had the presence of mind to hold back and be there and be available. And man, what a finish too. That was a brilliant finish to keep that under control and put it on frame. I mean, that was class goal all around.
Yeah, and Clive?
Yeah, I felt, firstly on Ramsey, right? So I didn't see the game live. I just watched the first 50 minutes live and saw it again later. And the first thing I saw in the game straight away was Ramsey's positioning was much better. And he was behind the ball a lot more, right? So I always I don't massively look at statistics. I look at influence, right? So the influence of his positioning was much better than it was in previous weeks. And he had the highest amount of passes, but he didn't have like the highest pass combinations, right? And that tells me that he was doing a lot more work in the areas of the pitch that he's picked to play in, right? So I actually thought, even though he didn't have the effect on goal, that to me was his best game in a long time, because he controlled the middle of the pitch, right? He was part of that controlling bit. And you've heard me say before, you're picked to play in the middle third, so control the middle third. Leave the upper third to Ozil, Sanchez and Giroud. And Ozil's average position was much higher. The highest pass combinations was Ozil to Sanchez, right? And that tells you them two have just decided to take over the team. And that's the second week in a row. But what I really liked, that Ramsey has got that pass in him. Everyone thinks it's good that he runs forward. And everyone thinks he's like a Steven Gerrard. I would love him to be like a Toni Kroos, right? Toni Kroos at Real Madrid when he was young, he was a similar type player to Ramsey. He used to burst forward playing for Bayern Munich in a number 10 position. And then he worked it out. He worked out there are other players around him like Müller and Ozil and Goetze and Royce who were better than him in the last third. So he moved backwards and he stayed behind the ball a lot more. And I think that's what he needs to do. And I thought he was much better. And I've given him a lot of stick, so you should always be on it balanced about your sort of feedback, right? So I thought he was better. And the good thing about Ozil on the goal compared to Southampton, that first chance against Southampton when he dragged it out of the sky over his left shoulder and sort of just stroked it towards the net. If he'd have shown the same level of conviction in the finish as he did at Bournemouth, we would have beat Southampton as well, right? So the pleasing thing for me was in the area, he'd really banged that. He has banged it.
Yeah.
And that's not like him. He sort of strokes the ball into the net, right? Barely gets over the line. That's how players do it. But I thought he's banged it. And that was the exact finish that was required. And he found it, executed it on his bad foot. Yeah. That's a really good sign, that is, that he's getting serious. He's getting more serious again. And the timing couldn't be more perfect, right? So I was really pleased with that first goal. And, we played for the 80-odd seconds that we needed to win the game. Right? So,
yeah. Well, you said in your brilliant analysis there, Clive, you don't look at statistics. Well, someone on this podcast does. And just on Aaron Ramsey yesterday, he had an 85% pass completion rate, 4 interceptions, 4 tackles, which, for me, the last few weeks I've been going, you're not like Cazorla, mate. You've got to make your tackles. Pleased with that. And then he got 2 assists as well, which leads on to the 24th minute, where Ramsey again threads a nice little ball through to Oxlade-Chamberlain, who I believe that's his first ever goal away for Arsenal and his first league goal in 18 months or something, was it?
I thought it was his second away goal. Well, his first away for Arsenal.
Yeah.
Only the second of his career, and last one was 5 years ago, I think they were saying.
Yeah, but what a finish though. Took that on beautifully.
Yeah, that was a very class finish, and the whole build-up and counterattack was beautiful as well. Those are the Arsenal goals of the mid-noughts that we haven't really seen too often recently. But yeah, that was a class finish, and it's good to see him finding a bit of form, and hopefully he can keep that rolling. We're going to need it in the next few weeks.
Yeah, and Clive, just quickly on Oxlade-Chamberlain, you said you were pleased that he got back into start and everything else. Do you think now, because I always said it's the time of if he gets one, that'll be it for him now. He can settle down, because he's had a few chances the last few games. You can see in his body language and, if you can lip read what he's been saying. So, do you think it's good that he's got this goal now? Do you think that'll settle him in?
It's quite interesting, right? When he got named in the team, some people were not very happy with that, right? Some people liked to have seen Campbell start or Theo Walcott start. And a sort of Twitter mate of mine, Gooner Dave 66, right? He wrote an article for Shoot magazine over the weekend, and he went to the game and he met Mark Godella, the sort of Arsenal communications guy, and he said that Oxlade-Chamberlain has been flying in training, was really doing well in training, so he earned his place in the team. And I think sometimes fans got to recognise, right, that we see them once a week, sometimes twice a week. But they go to their office every single day, and every single training session is critical. And that's where they get selected. So he's been flying in training. That's a really good thing. He's gone out there, and I've noticed his form improving. But I thought he did okay, right? And I tend not to look at the goal statistics. One of the most interesting statistics about Oxlade-Chamberlain is he's only ever played 90 minutes for Arsenal 9 times. And that leads back to what you've heard me say before about him. I'm concerned about his anaerobic fitness. He's a power athlete that really does not last games. And when he gets fatigued, when he's in fatigue moments after a big burst of energy, that's when he's wasteful in possession. So if I'm looking for a development from him, maybe it's a run of games, but for me, I actually think he needs to do some hill running, get fitter. Right.
Go with Sanchez.
Yeah,
endurance. Yeah.
It's down to basics endurance. Exactly right. He's a power athlete, but he hasn't got that speed endurance. He's just speed agility is what he has. He needs to add it to his endurance. I think his accuracy will be better later in games or better when he's under fatigue. So I'm a fan of his because he's 22. Our team is not a young team anymore. He's 22. Bellerin's 20. And they're the two that I'm looking at with the highest ceilings, right? So I give him a bit more of a break. Bellerin's flying, but he'll have his dip as well. So yeah, I was really pleased to see him start, really pleased to see him score because he needs to score to shut up people who are not looking closely and properly at him. And that allows him, and we need that contribution from midfielder Judd was alluding to, right? We need more goals. Our goals for column is 9 or so behind Tottenham. It's not enough. We need more goals, right? So yeah, really pleasing, really pleasing.
Yeah, and carrying on in that first half, really, not much did go on. I mean, Adam Smith, the right back for Bournemouth yesterday, he had a bloody good game. I thought he picked the ball up when Sanchez and Monreal got a bit stuck, and he had a few good chances. And then I think there was another chance in the first half. I think it was from the left-hand side for Bournemouth. I think it was Pugh, was it? And he got in between Gabriel. That was his first real mistake of the game, but then Bellerin mopped that up beautifully. So fair play to that. But going into the second half, and I put it onto Twitter and everything else, guys. I don't know if it was just me. You guys can contribute as well. We look so tired. I don't know. Was it Bournemouth stepped it up, or is it the lack of rotation at Arsenal and everything else? For me, we looked Billy bollocked as soon as that whistle started to blow for that second half.
I don't know. The way I saw it was kind of we were just protecting the lead, being a little bit more comfortable. It didn't look to me as though there was, any exorbitant amount of fatigue or tiredness. I think it was just the mentality that we came out of halftime with. We were already 2-0 up. We were just maintaining that. That's the way I viewed it anyway.
Yeah, me too, right? And let me take it on a step further, right? Because I was thinking about this today, walking about at work, and I was thinking that basically this is not new, actually. We play in small chunks, right? So think back to Man United 3-0. 3-0, 19 minutes. We didn't kick a ball after that.
Yeah.
We just sat in, did our job. Think about City again. 2 quickish goals just for half-time. After half-time, we sat in, right? So I was thinking back because every time a team's picked and the game's coming, I'm thinking, yeah, I want to see a performance. If you think back to all the games this year, apart from maybe Leicester away, there's not been many games where we've put in what I call a 90-minute performance. We've just gone out there, hit teams over some period in the game, 2 quick goals, a goal early, hit teams, and then we've tried to control the rest of the game economically, right? So it is a new sort of characteristic of the team, really. We really are dropping in, and I don't think we were tired. I think it was a conscious decision to economically win the game, right? So, and I was thinking about how the season's going to pan out. And I know we touched on Gabriel early, but I actually think, and maybe Judd, is post Super Bowl day, right? The Super Bowl was won by the team with the best defense, right? Denver absolutely smashed Carolina to bits, right? Horrible game. No one's going to watch that game again, right? And I was just thinking about the impact of defense, right? So Peter Cech, probably our player of the season, right? Along with Ozil.
Mm-hmm.
And his impact has kept us where we are in the league. And I've just got a sneaky feeling for Gabriel. If Gabriel and Koscielny can strike up a partnership, I think the way Arsenal are sort of playing, they flow for about 10 or 15 minutes and then they shut up shop and they try to counter. We tried it at Anfield, right? So we got ahead. We tried to sit in and counter. I think Gabriel's going to be really important to the rest of our season. And I think if we're going to do anything, it's going to be done on that back five. Because I think that back five is really top class, right? And I think it's it is the most top class area of our team. We may be a little bit wasteful in possession, but one-on-one defending, all of them, excellent. Goalkeeper, experienced. I mean, I don't see a weakness there that people are going to play on. And that really encourages me for the big games we got upcoming, right? So, if you think back to the Leicester game, the 5-2, when Jamie Vardy went down Mertesack's side, right? Let me tell you, right, at home, I've got a 55-inch Sony Bravia TV, right? Very lucky, right? I couldn't see Mertesacker in that screen when Vardy went. Right? I couldn't see him. We can't have that on Sunday, right? Yeah. We can't have Neymar doing that in that right channel in a couple of weeks' time. So for all the people and I'm one of those that love what Mertesacker brings, and maybe the away game when we have to sit in at Barcelona, he's a different story. He marshals deep defences very, very well. But I'm telling you now, if we play him in these big games, he's going to get picked. And it's just going to be such a shame, right? When we've got a player there that's got all the attributes. So I think the rest of the season is going to be about how we defend and how we keep clean sheets. I don't see masses of goals in this team. They score in little lumps. And, apart from the Leicester game, how many times have we whacked 4 or 5? Not that many, right? So it is about how we defend. I think that's going to be the theme for the rest of the season.
Yeah, well, you talk about the defence again, and Lauren Koscielny yesterday with the captain's armband again. He's, it's a new thing for him. But yesterday, 4 interceptions and 10 clearances. Big game for him as well. I thought he was brilliant. I thought Monreal, apart from like I said earlier, getting picked out by that Adam Smith earlier on, had a brilliant game. But Judd, I'll go to you because we're talking about goalkeepers as well in the back five. 12 clean sheets now in the league. Top in the league for clean sheets is Cech. Lay it on us. You're our resident goalkeeper, man.
Well, I mean, the value of a good goalkeeper cannot possibly be understated. And I think that's finally being shown this year. Something that we've missed out on since probably, Lehman. Some would even argue, David Seaman. But, I mean, the defense as a whole, I think it's got just a new mesh this year. And you can attribute that to whatever you like. I like to think that it's because Czech's got, he's that general back there keeping everybody organized and structured. Maybe it's because Koscielny and Mertesacker have had some more time together. But whatever it is, it's great to see because, through the years that we were playing Szczesny, I would constantly harp on about how, we can't be conceding so many goals. It's great to beat an opponent 5-2. 3 points is 3 points, but that's not going to happen consistently. If you look back through the years, very rarely does a team win the championship and not have one of the top 3 defenses in the league. If not the top defense.
Yeah.
And, we just saw it recently. There's going to be days where, for whatever reason, the finishing's just a little bit off and you struggle to score. I think, and you can get through those games and still get draws if you've got a tight defense and you're not conceding. But if you're conceding consistently, those turn into losses and then you're dropping points. And how many times last year did we have a score draw? I can't remember if it was last year or the year before, but I did the math and it came out to like 8 or 9 games. I can't remember. It was something absolutely ridiculous. And if we would have just won half of those, we would have been, right there in the title chase the entire season. It's those little things that you don't normally pay that close of attention to, but can make such a huge, huge difference in the total, the totality of the season. And, I just can't say enough positive things about the difference that Czech has made this year. And, people like goals, and they'll probably go with Ozil for player of the season. But for me, without doubt, it's been Czech. He's had the biggest overall impact on the squad over last year, which might not be fair because Ozil was in the squad last year. So, but either way.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you. Was there anything else you guys wanted to mention about the game before going into listeners' questions?
No, I think it was an 80-second game, right? So
for the most part.
Normally, when you watch, obviously, if you watch it live, and I normally, I listened to the pod last time. I was moaning a lot, right? So I watched it live. And,
Clive, compared to me, you will never moan too much, mate. You are doing fine on the moan count. Don't you worry.
I was a bit disappointed. So, but we've done it again. We just played. We play with economy, right? We do just enough. And when you watched it back knowing the score, nothing happened, right? Nothing really happened. They managed to kill that game, reduce Bournemouth to long shots, press their men. We threatened on the break. I think we could be a bit more efficient on the break, if I'm honest with you. I think we might need that. But we didn't quite execute again on the break, which was a little bit frustrating. But I was pleased with the shape of the team. Again, I was pleased with the distances. I was much happier where Ramsey was standing. I was much happier with how Giroud was playing. Again, he's not on top form, but the team played to him. Ozil seems to be back on form. Sanchez was a little bit off, right? A bit of a shame, but we didn't need him to be top dollar. But we do need him to be top dollar from Sunday onwards, right? So
yeah, of course.
So hopefully that will change. But yeah, it was a pretty non-eventful game. Just great to get a win, right? Because Monday feels better when we win. You know what I mean? So.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, I watched the breakdown on Arsenal.com earlier, and like you just said, Clive, he commended the fact that we reduced them to so many chances outside the box. Like you said, he thought, considering how well Bournemouth press and everything else, he said for Arsenal to keep them contained was quite impressive as well. So. Yep. I agree with that point you made there. Well, let's go into the listeners' questions. We've got a couple here, so thanks again as always. Got one here from JJ, who's at JassAFC. He put, is it worrying to you that Giroud hasn't scored in his last 5 games? It's his longest drought since December 2013. Is it time for Theo Walcott to go up front? I don't know which one of you wants to jump in on that first.
I'll go ahead and jump in. I don't know. I'm not too fussed about it yet because I've always liked the fact that he contributes so much more than just goals to the squad. And I think the first goal is a perfect example of that. Giroud is a great forward for the midfield to play off of. And I've always liked that about him. He gets everybody involved, and then it gives us so many more options. And he does have a great touch, and he's great at knocking the ball down to people or flicking it through the defense to a runner down the flanks. He brings a lot more to the game than, Theo. I don't want to pigeonhole Theo, but, his game's not as diverse as Giroud's, in my opinion. He's more of a, I hate to use the word because it's usually used derogatorily, but, he's more of a speed merchant than Giroud. His game's not as expansive. So, I mean, obviously you want your forward scoring your goals for you, but if he can get the rest of the team involved, Sanchez is starting to get back into form. Hopefully Ox can get something going. Ozil's been looking great. I'm not that fussed about it yet. It's not the best time with the fixtures that we've got coming up. Hopefully he can get something going real quick, but the way Theo's been playing, I just don't think it's time to make a move to him.
That's actually a really good question, right? And I have been walking about thinking about this today, right? So in the sort of away game at the Walker Stadium, right? Basically, that was probably Theo's best game of the season, and I watched Leicester at City on Saturday. And they handled Aguero really well just by kicking him, basically. They kicked him early, they unsettled him, and I thought Huth and Morgan really bullied him out of the game. And it just concerned me a little bit about Giroud being a bit more of a standing target, right? So maybe I'm overthinking it. I think Giroud is our main man, and I wish Theo could be trusted, because I've got a feeling that his movement and his dynamic movement, when I close my eyes and I see a Theo Walcott on form, what he did to those two defenders at Leicester was outstanding. He was strong, he was quick, he was agile, he moved them around, he caused some problems, and Sanchez and Ozil really benefited from that. Home game, we probably are going to control the ball, press them back, get close to their box. If we get close to their box, I want Giroud playing. So I think Giroud will probably play because he's more likely to give a 7 out of 10. And with Theo, it could be a 9 or it could be a 2, right? And I think the game's too big to risk that 2 out of 10. So probably Giroud for me just. But if Theo played, it would be a positive sign as well that we're going to really go for them. With Sanchez back, a potential of Ramsey being a little bit more disciplined. It doesn't really matter. I think we're threatening some real form, right? So I'm pretty positive.
Yeah. The next question is from Waleed Omer. He's at Waleed Omer 159. He put, would you start the Ox versus Leicester or the safer, more defensive option of Joel Campbell? Now, we could even put Walcott out there on the wing and have Walcott, Sanchez and Giroud. So what do you guys think?
Yeah, for me, I go the Ox, right? And the reason why I go the Ox is that he has more touches, right? So he actually played the wide right role a little bit more like Ramsey plays the wide right role. He wasn't so wide this time. He was inside Bellerin a lot. He supported the distances with Flamley quite well. Again, I don't look at stats too much. I look at positions, influence, and pass completion and pass combinations. That tells you the pattern of the game, right? And I'm looking at where he was playing from, and it was a nice in-to-out type role, and that sort of suits him. So again, his threat of the dribble is really sort of important. I think to have that threat of the dribble will keep, the Leicester left back, I think his name is Fuchs.
Yeah.
Got to say that carefully, right? So but he was, I really rate him. He's a really good player, and
he's very strong, isn't he? That's why I would go with you and say the Ox, because I feel that, all right, he's not the quickest, but he's very strong. So if the Ox can get the better of him there, play that little overlap into Bellerin, we're cruising.
I think he's very strong. I think I would definitely go on his inside shoulder. I'll drive on the inside of him a lot more and really challenge that space between him and Huth. I think their weakness, funny enough, is on their right back side. And that happens to be our strongest players on our left-hand side, right? So I think our left side can really do damage. And we did damage down their left side away. I think for all Mahrez's ability on the ball, to get him going backwards is really key. And I thought he had his worst game of the season versus us. And Danny Simpson at right back is decent, but, Lexi Sanchez should be able to handle him, right? So I think if we challenge them down our left, and have solidity and threat on our right, I think we'll be good. I definitely would start the Ox for sure.
Mm-hmm. And Judd?
I don't, really. I'm sorry, I completely agree. So I don't really have a lot to add to that.
Yeah, no,
I'd definitely go with Ox.
Yeah, and we got another question here from Dominic the Gooner at Dominic Gooner. He put, can we generally go on a run of wins with the likes of United away and Barcelona coming up?
I don't see why United away is a problem. Right?
Yeah. To be fair, I've just got this image in my head. I've said it to so many people that at home against Barcelona, because I think it's home first, right? Am I correct in that?
I have to double check, but I believe so.
Yeah. I have a feeling somehow we'll get something out of that home game. Away we'll somehow win it, like keep it a draw or something else. And then the next round we'll go out to bloody CSKA or someone like that.
Well, we're certainly a Jekyll and a Hyde squad,
yeah,
aren't we?
yeah. And
shown
then
that
United away, I'm not worried. Spurs is this one at the weekend. I'm not really fretting about. So, yeah, I think we do go on a run. It takes us a while, but when it does happen, it's like you said, Jekyll and Hyde, isn't it? Just the way we are. What about you, Clive?
Certainly a pivotal point of the season, without a doubt. So hopefully, if we're going to find a run of form, now's the time.
I mean, I don't like looking at the fixtures, but if you look at Leicester's, they've got us, and then I believe it's Chelsea and United, and the rest of their games are quite favourable. So,
yeah, they've got a great run, right? But what's a great run? It doesn't really. When the pressure's on, every game's massive, right? When the pressure's on, Sunderland away is a big game, right? So, because they're fighting for their lives. So, I go back to the point I made earlier. If we're going to do anything, I think it's going to be because of our defence, right? Defence wins championships. That's what they say. And I've always looked at the front end and how we create goals and how we work as a unit and all. I look at that and I look at the flow of our team. But I'm telling you, the way I'm looking at this team, I think if we're going to do something, it's going to happen with our back five, right? And that's solidity and clean sheets. Otherwise, we're just not going to be able to win those big games. Right? It's simple as that. At the moment, we are not efficient enough in front of goal. I don't think we are, we have turned a little bit away from the basketball, football. I just don't see the amount of shots on target that tells me that we're going to suddenly start beating people 3 and 4-0, right? So our quality of chance is very, very good that we create, but I just see it being anything going to happen is going to happen by a strong back five, right? And at the moment we've got that, so I'm pretty hopeful.
Yeah. And then we've got another question here, which is from Dane Challoner, who said, Per or Gabriel to start against Leicester in your opinion? I know we've sort of summed this up already, but it's nice to do it again. I'm going to guess all three of us want Gabriel to start, right?
Yep. Analysis done.
I think Mr. Mahrez and Mr. Vardy would have quite a easier day with Mertesacker, to be fair.
I don't want to rubbish Mertesacker. Sorry, Joe.
No, neither do I.
I don't want to rubbish him. I just think, you've heard me say it before. When it's big boy football, right? You got to have it. Everything's got to be in place. And teams have targeted Mertesacker, right? They've targeted that channel. It's impacted Bellerin's ability. I know Gabriel's got a mistake in him now and again, but I don't see him being a sort of a weakness. I see him potentially getting stronger. He's 25. He's got years ahead of him. He's only going to get better, right? So, some people are not comfortable with him playing every minute of every game. But the only way we're going to find out what he's got is by playing him. And at the moment, we've hardly conceded a goal when he plays, right? So the stats when he plays are amazing. So, let's see what happens.
I think the matchup just screams Gabriel, in my opinion. And I think he's shown several times that he's got much better recoverability than Mertesacker has. And hopefully he doesn't need to use it, but if he does, I have a lot more confidence in him than I do Mertz. And it's just, like Clive was saying, I don't want to be dismissive, but the matchup just, to me, screams Gabriel.
Yeah, I think you need the two that can keep up. Not like you said, Clive, I don't want to tarnish Mertesacker, I don't want to ruin what he has, but at the moment and everything else, in this big boy football, like you said, I don't think he's the right man, sadly. But going into that Leicester game, if I can just get your predictions, lads, what do you think?
My heart says 2-0 to the Arsenal, but I mean, I think it's gotten well past the point where you can just write off Leicester and assume that they're going to, at some point, fall by the wayside. So, I think it's going to be a tough game. Hopefully, in the end, we can pull out a 2-1. That's my thought.
Yeah, I think we'll win by just the one goal. But I do think the most important thing is not to get ambushed like Leicester ambushed City at the start of the game.
Yeah.
I thought they started both halves fantastically well. City were the stronger side. They were the better side for most of that game until that second goal went in, and they were like, oh my goodness, we've now got to play a counter-attacking team and we're 2-0 down at home. And they slumped, right? So, Leicester have got the 5-point gap. I think they will know if we win that it's going to be back to 2 points, obviously. So it was really important the Bournemouth win because that sort of made it a bit more of a game that they have to get something from, right? So if they don't get something from it, we know we're going to be 2 points behind. The gap's going to be it's going to start to make them think about expectations. So yeah, I think it's going to be a 1-goaler, and I think it's going to be a horrible, nervy game, right? So
yeah, without a doubt.
Going to be awful, right? Because we all know it's really important. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
I don't want to call it a title decider, but I mean, this is as close as it can be. It's still a lot of football to be played after this, but man, if even with a draw, a 5-point gap, and I think there would be 12 games left, it puts a lot of pressure. You can't have any more slip-ups.
I think what it'll do, I think it might be a confidence decider. Because I can see us getting really confident if we win that game.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, I just can see it, right? And if we win it with a clean sheet in a sort of an Arsenal way, right? An old school 1-0 to the Arsenal way, I can see us getting onto that. I can see that being the bedrock of our run that we all need, right? So I do think anything other than 3 points, I think our confidence would waver. The issues with the fans and their thoughts about team selection and the manager will all come to the surface again. If we win, we're back in the room. Do you know what I mean? And I think we'll be a team to fear, right? Because no one's beating them. So, yeah, I think it's really important for our mentality and confidence if we get the points.
Yeah, it's a good Valentine's Day fixture as well, isn't it? So, we'll all be with our first loves, the Arsenal. So,
it's the second love.
It's all good. It's all good. Well, before we go, we've got a quiz night going on at the Tollington. It's on the 9th of March. And if you want to get involved, I know a few of us might be down there, so you can chat with us, have a beer with us, whatever you like. But if you want more information, then just contact @10akil. He should be on our Twitter account. You've seen him a few times being retweeted, and he's probably in the description as well. I know all of our names are on there, so just click that, get in touch, and there's all sorts of prizes and raffles and all sorts going on. So just get down there and hopefully join us, and we can have a good night and raise some good money for a good cause. As we leave, thanks, Judd.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure.
No worries, and thank you, Clive.
Thank you very much.
No worries. Press subscribe on YouTube if you haven't already. Like us on there. Like us on iTunes, SoundCloud. We've got the RSS feed. You probably know by now everything. We've said it so many times now. I think this is the 38th pod. So
for all you new listeners out there, now you've got the info.
Just give it a click. Anyway, thanks again, everyone, and take care.